Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wave. I'm your host, Don Tecson, coming to you from my living room here in Port Alberni. And we're here to talk about the wonderful Alberni Valley of experience of a very nice young girl who has been gracious enough to come on the show today. Her name is Tianna Vertigan. Hello and welcome, Tianna, to
Hello.
our show. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
It's so nice to meet you. I know we haven't met personally, but thanks to this pandemic and all the
Yeah.
internet technology available to us, and
Mhm.
thanks to your mother, who's my friend on Facebook, Ayla. Did I say her name? Ayla, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ayla. She recommended. I was trying to get your mom for an interview, and she said, "Oh, I'm camera shy and this and that."
Oh
But
yeah.
my daughter would be up for it, and there, bada bing, bada boom, I got Tianna Vertigan here on the show with us today, and I would like to ask her about her wonderful Alberni Valley experience. Let's start with where were you born? You were not born in Port Alberni, though, right?
No, I was born in Victoria just because I was born premature, like very premature. I was born
Really? How
like
premature? Like 3 months? No, I'm kidding.
like a month. I was really tiny. I was like 3 pounds.
Wow,
So
really?
I was born in Victoria, and we lived in Ucluelet, and shortly after we moved to Port Alberni, and I lived there for the majority of my life.
Okay, so how old were you when you started living in Port Alberni?
I think I was 2 or 3, somewhere
Okay,
around there.
so basically, your tie to Port Alberni is you went to school here for your middle school and your high school.
Mhm.
And tell me what that was like for you as your wonderful Alberni Valley experience.
Well, to I went to Wood School for elementary, and I wasn't having a great time there, so I switched to John Paul, which is the Catholic school. And because I had some friends there, and my parents were really worried about me getting bullied, and it was a great school for the lower years. It was great, and then I started like thinking about I guess thinking about my sexuality in the back of my mind, and I was like, hey, like there's nothing wrong with being gay, and we'd have like a couple of the students there that were like, but they weren't fully like they weren't being hateful. They just didn't know what
They
was
were not,
they were
they
not
felt like
taught.
uncomfortable or like
Yeah,
at ill at ease, sort of like, but
yeah,
not cruel and
yeah.
just ill at ease. That's what
But
most,
yeah, they were pretty accepting, to be honest, though, because I had a best friend with two moms, and they welcomed her. It was all fine. It was great. But eventually, I just kind of got tired of it. It was a lot of money. And so I went to middle school. I went to Neil School, and I had a great time there. I met my favorite teacher, Mr. Kynock. He's a band teacher, and he actually ended up going to ADSS as a band teacher too in recent years.
oh, that's
And
wonderful.
yeah, I started playing the flute. Actually, before that, in John Paul is when I learned to play the recorder. And I started when I was like 10 or 12. I was like busking outside the liquor stores with my mom, and I'd make some money. And that's
Oh, there
that's
you
what I love
go.
about Port Alberni. That's what I miss, is that you could do something just outside of a little store and you could make some money.
There you go.
And people were all happy. They were outside the liquor store. They were getting their liquor. They were happy. It was a good time.
Yeah,
And
that's another thing we have a lot of here in Port Alberta. You have a lot of liquor
yeah,
stores, enough to match
yeah,
the number of schools we have.
for sure.
I think we have more liquor stores than we have schools.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah,
I guess it's all part of the wonderful Alberni Valley experience for some
yeah,
people.
yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned that you are a LGBTQ, right? And so when did you start to realize this, and how did you deal with it as part of your experience here in the Valley?
I realized in grade 8 is when I kind of came out to myself with the help of a friend who was also in the community. But I kept hearing these terms on the internet, like pansexual, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. It means like you just don't really care about gender, and it's like whatever. And I was like thinking like, oh yeah, that's kind of like me. Like I wouldn't care. Like I had a friend that I was like, I would be cool with marrying her, but I was like, I'm
Okay.
not gay though. Wrong. Wrong.
There's
Silly.
nothing wrong with being gay, dog.
Yeah. So I ended up just being like, oh yeah, I guess that is me. Huh. Gee. And
And you were in
it's
grade
kind of
8 at the
funny.
time,
I
right?
was in grade 8. I was in last year of middle school. Um, I think that was actually the last year that they had middle schools in Port Alberni, which was
Uh-huh.
interesting jump. But I felt more secure as a ninth grader knowing that there were eighth graders below me in the high school. So it was like we were kind of like invisible, I thought. Like the eighth graders were younger than us. So maybe if we were going to get bullied for being new, they would target the eighth graders first instead of the
Mhm.
ninth graders. So it's like, I'm a super secret ninja. I'm a spy. I'm getting out of this. It's great.
So, was part of your Alberni Valley experience having to deal with bullies in school when you were growing up?
um, at the beginning, when I was really really little, I was really shy. I had anxiety, but nobody, like my parents didn't really know what that was. They were like, "Oh, you're just shy. Like just go make some friends." And I was like, "No." No, not happening. But I found my comfort zone eventually and I stepped out of it a couple times. Playing music especially helped with that. And I'm a lot more secure person now because of music and because of the friends that I've had and some people from being so accepting and knowing how to recognize when people aren't being so accepting and thinking, hey, that's not right. And
Yes. Well, the fact remains is you can't win them all. Some people are accepting, some people are ill at ease, and then
yeah,
very few, though, very few in the valley, as far as my experience is, very few are mean or cruel, or the most they can do is like, say something sarcastic, like, where's your
yeah,
skirt? Or you're a lunatic. What are you, a boy or a girl? Will you please make up your mind? Or something like that. So
they're just silly.
yeah, they're just being silly. So in your so you went from so middle school, then you went to high school here in Port Alberni, right? So
Yes.
what was high school like for you here in Port Alberni?
It was all right. It was a solid experience. I did have some great times. A lot of those times were with band and through music community. I play flute and tenor sax, and I like playing the tenor sax because it's like a little bit bigger than the alto sax, so it makes me feel like, ooh, I can carry a big instrument even though I'm very small. I'm 4'10". That is small, but
I couldn't say from where we're speaking now.
yeah.
You're 4'10".
Yeah, but I embraced it and I think it's hilarious and I love it.
So you're a very pretty petite little lady.
Yeah. I'm small.
So I mean, in the LGBTQ community, we're very conscious about the pronouns and
Yes.
how we address each other. So how do you identify? You still
Um,
identify she, her?
yeah. I don't really care what people like what pronouns people use. It doesn't really offend me. I'm cool to be called whatever as long as it's nice.
Yeah, of
As long as
course.
they're not making up some weird joke, but it's cool. I identify as a girl.
Okay, a girl who likes. So are you pan or?
I'm pansexual, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you, as long as the person is a person, a genuine
Yeah.
person, a warm person, a kind person,
Yes.
that's what makes the connection with you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now you've graduated high school and you are now in VIU
Mhm.
as a creative. You're taking up creative writing. Did
Yes.
I understand it correctly?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Why that course of study for you? What drew you to that course of study?
Well, I think for as long as I can remember, I've loved reading. I've loved writing. I love making up stories, and I like another thing about me is I have really really weird dreams, so I like to
Oh,
like write them down. And I did this when I was like 8 or 9. I would have like a dream journal and I'd write them down, but my little hands hurt so much after writing so much because the dreams were so long, and I would always write so much, and I just needed like an outlet for that basically. And I've I've always been like, English was like my favorite subject other than music, but I just really did well with that, and I thought like, hey, I could do something with this. This is my passion. I want to like not only do it to like create stories and stuff and like make magical worlds like Harry Potter and stuff, but
Uh-huh, yeah.
I want to talk about issues and we how we can solve them, and hopefully I can help society somehow one day and make someone's life better maybe.
It is, let me tell you this, it is so refreshing to hear a young person such as yourself to speak that way. Because most young people I know don't know what they want to do with their lives. They don't know what they're into. They don't know their
Yeah.
passion. They're happy playing video games until their skulls are numb.
Yeah.
No offense to the video gamers.
Mhm.
But, it's rare that I see such young people who have this focus and this passion, like an understanding of who they are, an understanding of what they want to do with their lives, and what talents and passions they want to explore and cultivate. That is just so refreshing to hear from you. For
Yeah.
how old are you again? I'm sure
I'm
you're going
19.
to. Sorry.
I'm 19.
So you're 19,
Yeah.
and you're at BIU studying. Are you in your first year or second year of study?
I just finished my first year.
Okay. So how has the pandemic affected all this studying? Are you doing studying online now, or are you still going to class or
Um,
something?
yeah, we were doing online. We had to do some final exams online, but I think that made it easier. So I'm okay with
Okay.
that. But um, they mostly just kind of gave up on the teaching parts, like the lectures. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lot of Zoom meetings with my teachers. I had a couple with my creative writing teacher, but I was also taking as electives, I was taking studies in women and gender, which is called SWAG, which is cool.
Oh,
And
cool. Studies in women and gender. Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
a good acronym, right?
yeah,
SWAG. Okay.
SWAG. And um for those classes, it was much more like, okay, just do the readings, do the projects, you'll make it, we'll be okay, you'll do the exam, I'll give you lots of time to do the exam. And we kept getting extensions on everything because nobody really realized how tough this was going to be with like the trauma from the pandemic of having to do this all at once and
Mm-hmm.
everyone just being so shaken up about it.
Okay. Now I want to go back a little bit to your coming out and your realization of your orientation or who you are, like you came to yourself. So you mentioned something very interesting, which I think everybody goes through. Even me, I can relate to that. Like you have to come out to yourself.
Hmm.
Why do you need to come out to yourself? Like at first you didn't accept it that you were the way
it's
you
not
were.
it's not that I didn't accept it. Like I started out as like such a big LGBTQ ally, and I was just like, yes, like even in Catholic school, like my mom raised me to be very like accepting. And my dad, I don't know if that was his plan, but he just kind of went along with it, and eventually he's grown a lot more with that too. But I I just kind of didn't realize like I just didn't make the connection for some reason. And then eventually through talking to people in the community, I was just like, "Oh, yeah, that is me. That sounds about right." And it was just silly. I laugh at myself for it taking me so long, like even after having heard the terms. I'm just like, "Oh, that's cool." But I didn't really think of it much. I guess because I was not really looking for a relationship in middle school. I was always like, those like little kids that like date and stuff, that's not me. That's not a real relationship and I don't want that. And then eventually in grade 8, it was coming to the time where I did kind of find someone that I was like in love with, and it was a girl, and I was like, huh. What do
There's
you
nothing
do?
wrong with being in love.
Of course. Yeah.
Love is love, regardless of gender.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
you like to share a little bit about that experience? Was that here in Port Alberni?
it was in Port Alberni. Yeah.
Okay, so you care to share a little bit about that wonderful Alberni Valley? Was that your first love?
Yes.
Okay.
um, we met in like at the Catholic school, so it was kind of interesting. But we were always really supportive people. We were both big allies, and she moved away for a bit, and then when she came back when we were like a little bit older, that's when I was like, oh yeah, all of this like me missing her is like
Okay.
part of like my sexuality. Like I wouldn't just miss like a friend that much. And then I was like, oh. It was just funny. It was tough the first year, but we had a lot of really supportive teachers that knew us and knew what was best for us and were supporting us as being not just like as us like turning into adults and growing up. They were supporting like the decisions we were making and all of our rights. And it was really awesome to have those few teachers that did care so much.
That's wonderful. That's such a wonderful story. Now, you were telling me earlier before the interview, we started recording the interview, that you had an easier time coming out to your friends than you did to your parents. Can you tell me a little
Yeah,
bit about that? Like coming
because
out to your parents?
because my first girlfriend, my mom really did not like her. She said she had a bad attitude. She did not like her, but I liked her very much.
Okay.
But by the time it was over, like we ended up breaking up and stuff, I still hadn't come out to my mom because she did not like her. And I was like, okay, well something bad is gonna happen if I do this. She's not gonna let me see her. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I waited until my second girlfriend,
Okay.
who she liked a lot more. She was very nice and like very polite and like family oriented, which my mom really liked a lot. And like she was like more creative and wanted to do stuff. So my mom
No,
liked her a lot more.
I want to clarify something at this point. So you weren't out, but you were bringing friends who were girls who were
Yeah.
like presented as just friends to your
Yeah.
mom and dad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
We're just friends.
Okay,
My
okay.
mom my mom knew better with the first one. She knew we weren't just friends, but I was not gonna give her the satisfaction. I
Oh,
was like,
confirming or validating it,
I'm
right?
not ready. I'm not just no. Just I'll deal with it later. And then eventually I had to deal with it because my mom kept bugging me about when I had my second girlfriend. She started to realize too. She was like, I think I'm on to something here, and I like cried, and I was like, ah, and I just
That's so funny. I mean, why is it
yeah,
it's always the moms who are first to know or first become suspicious?
I don't
Most
know.
of the stories I hear from,
Yeah,
people such as you and me, it's always the moms who are like, what's
yeah,
happening?
yeah. Right. I just kind of gave up on hiding because I knew she liked her, and I was kind of in the clear at that moment, and I was like, okay, all right, I guess this is life now. But it was a huge change. It was I can't even remember like the shift from going like to being in the closet to being out of the closet with my mom especially. It's just a blur. It happened so fast.
Well,
But
I can say, I mean, I think I can safely say that your mom's so proud of you. I mean,
yeah,
she wasted no time in telling me, oh, you should interview my daughter because I was wanting to interview your mother, and she said,
yeah,
no, not me. You should interview my daughter.
yeah.
She's so proud of you, and she's so happy for you, I suppose. So, what about your dad?
My dad, I don't think he's very closed off. Like he loves me. I know he loves me. I'm his little baby bud, and he just kind of wants the best for me, but he never really talks to me in deep detail, especially when my mom's around. Like if it's just me and him, he'll maybe talk to me a bit more about serious things or like what might be considered a serious thing, like coming out. But I think he was just kind of like, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah, like most dads.
Yeah, he was like, well, okay. He was like,
So as it stands, I mean, both your mom and dad know you're both out to them, and they're okay with it. They haven't
Yeah.
given you any grief or any, you know, resistance towards it.
No.
So now you're not living in Port Alberni because of your studies. Do
Yeah.
you miss Port Alberni? Do you miss your wonderful Alberni Valley experience?
I do miss parts of it. I don't miss like Port Alberni as a whole, but I miss some of the experiences that I had there. And I'm just the only reason I don't miss it is because I'm so happy here and I'm doing what I get to be free and I get to have my own little freedom. I have my cat here. I love her and
Yeah, I saw her
it's
tail a
great.
while ago. Said, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's a cat crawling around the background."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, her
it's
name's
okay if you can
Dorothy.
bring him on camera. Is it him or her?
Girl, she's Dorothy, my calico cat.
Okay, let's get a close up. Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah,
Although I'm
right.
not a cat person, but she's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. She's fluffy as heck.
What's her name?
Her name's Dorothy.
Okay,
She's
from the Wizard of
14 years
Oz.
old. She's an old lady now.
Oh my goodness. So, if I were to ask you a highlight of your wonderful Alberni Valley experience, what would that be? Graduation from high school, the day you came out, what would that be? What comes to mind if I were to ask you, what is the highlight of your wonderful Alberni Valley experience thus far?
I think just being in band and working with so many great people and like inspired youth and like they're trying to get themselves out there and they're making their own like I know people that have joined bands and like made their own bands and they're writing their own songs and that's really cool and I hope that I can do the same thing with my writing and they just really inspire me and they inspire lots of people and I think that's really cool that there's so much action in the youth to do something.
Well, speaking of inspiration, who has been your inspiration in your life as far as like writing and life in general? Who has been your inspiration?
I've had a lot of English teachers that have inspired me, but I think like my number ones are like my band teachers for that is because they were so happy when I said that I was going to VIU. I actually got a scholarship
Oh,
that
wow, that's great.
really yeah, really helped me out. I didn't My family's not very well off, so I'm very lucky to have that scholarship because I did work so hard with my grades and stuff that I got it and they were like, "Wow, we're so proud of you. Like I can't wait to see what you write." And they were even though I wasn't going to school for band, they were so happy for me and I love that.
That's such a wonderful story. I'm more power to you, darling.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
I'm
you.
so touched and blessed for by your sharing your story. There is a bright future for young
Yeah.
people who are focused, who work hard and put their heart and soul into what they love and what they do. And
Mhm.
but I think the key to it all was coming to terms with being yourself, being happy with who you are,
Of course.
and then finding your other passions and just being yourself and being yourself to the fullest.
Mhm.
Because like I always say, be yourself because nobody else will anyway.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Tiana, for
Thank
coming on the show.
you.
I would love to hear more of your stories in the future. And I wish for you the best in your studies. And don't forget me when you write your first novel.
Of course.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today on The Wave. The wonderful Alberni Valley experience shall continue regardless of all the troubles and trials, the pandemics and the crises that come upon our lives. The wonderful Alberni Valley experience, the wave will continue to go because it is for us to experience and to enjoy. We will catch you next time on The Wave.